Hey, this is Eric from Catching Light.
Hey, this is Hemp.
Hey, this is Glenn.
Hi, I'm Steve-O.
Hey, this is Drew Hines with Hindsight Imagery.
This is Matt Callahan at Digimatty Photographic Services.
Hey, this is Jason, and welcome to Tales from the Pit. Hello and welcome to Tales from the Pit, the behind-the-lens access for concerts and photography. Today is our part 2 with Nashville photographer Allen Clark. We hope you enjoy the show. I just wanted to know if you have any sort of interesting stories behind the photos for some of these. I mean, you hear, and I'm not asking for dirt or anything like that, but you hear just so many stories about people and they're so far from true. And you hear so many stories about how you have to jump through hoops for all this stuff. Yeah, I'm just curious to know if you have anything interesting.
That, you know, follow up like the George Bush story, because that was great.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, I know.
Interesting. I don't know, man. Like, I think, and we talked about this before we kind of started recording, and that was just working with George Martin, the producer of all the Beatles records. People always ask me, like, what my favorite thing was, and it was probably just working with him because, you know, all I could ever think about was this guy has worked with the Beatles, and now he's working with me. And I got that in my head, and I just, like, I couldn't get it out of it. And it got me a little nervous. And at this time, he's already lost his hearing. Yeah. You know, he's about to hand everything over to Giles, his son. This is in between probably so he put out a record for MCA Records. It was his kind of a goodbye record. It was kind of his, you know, going away thing that he did for the music industry. And so what he did was he had this record. You can go look it up. George Martin did this record where he invited like Goldie Hawn and Jim Carrey and Robin Williams and all these different people to come on and sing Beatles songs and completely screw them up, which they did. It's the worst sounding shit you've ever heard. Like, I'm not even sure there's a good song on there. Maybe there is, I'm not sure. But he did this for MCA Records, and it's crazy that he had to do this press junket. So he had to come to Cleveland, Ohio, and he had to give a press junket for MCA Records. He was literally, like, before whatever stupid band on MCA Records is happening, and after some other stupid band on MCA Records is happening, he has to get up there and do his little shtick. I don't know. So he had to come and do a press junket and do all this kind of stuff to promote the record. That's why we were there. We were shooting at the Ritz in Cleveland. And, you know, I honestly had all these ideas planned. Like, I've got this series of shots where he's like, he has Beatles all over his shirt. We went to Discovery Zone that day and bought a bunch of Beatles and put them on his shirt. And he was completely game for all this kind of stuff. He was so nice. And, you know, because I knew he recorded before he recorded the Beatles records. He did comedy records. He did records with Dudley Moore and Peter Cook and all these different like comedy acts. And so I was like, you know what, he's going to have a sense of humor. So I took some stuff with me to kind of hope, and he did. He completely had a sense of humor. And what I realized later after the shoot was, you know, he's such a great facilitator. He was just open to so many great ideas and stupid ones. He was open to the stupid ones too, because he had to accept all of it to kind of, what his job was as the fifth Beatle was to just kind of pick, you know what I mean? Just kind of pick through these things and go, you know, John, you're playing guitar on Strawberry Fields and it sucks. It sounded like a tin box. It's horrible. Why don't you switch to Mellotron? You know what I mean? And he guided that. And, you know, these strings are okay. You know, this idea for Eleanor Rigby is pretty good, but let me arrange some, you know, strings for this. Let me see if I can write something better. And he did. He did. He wrote something better. He kind of legitimized what they did. He made adults out of them. You know what I mean? That's kind of what he did. And I realized as the shoot was happening, he kind of did the same thing for me. At one point, he called me Clever Clogs. Because I had an idea about, shooting something. I just said, I had this idea, and I shot a Polaroid. Back then we shot Polaroids. You remember? So like Hasselblad, shooting everything. I would shoot a Polaroid of everything we did, and I showed him the Polaroid, and he goes, "Look at you, clever clugs." And I don't think I pissed myself, but I got pretty close. You know what I mean? Just like Sir George Martin just called me clever clugs. One of my ideas was it was this giant, I had rented the conference room out at the Ritz and this other side room. And one of my ideas was to cover the table, just like if I can do this now, cover the table with about $100 to $200 worth of sheet music. So I went and bought some blank sheet music and bought some Chopin, bought some Stravinsky, you know what I mean? Just kind of laid it all over the table. But I set the blank music near him. And I thought it'd be a cool idea if he had a pencil and he was just writing music. And so I got a shot of him writing music, and our art director, Derek Selby, he bought a green apple at the mall across the street and set it on the sheet music.
That's
So
awesome.
there was a green apple just sitting on the sheet music, and he's writing and all this kind of stuff. And his wife like came out of the corner of his over here, and she said, "Would you like some tea?" And he just kind of went. He was looking at her, and so it literally looks like he's thinking. So we got some amazing shots. But the sheet music that he was writing on, I just said, I just write out. I don't know, the first few bars of whatever. Hold on.
Oh, shit.
You can go now, Eric.
Oh, shit.
And he wrote out the first few bars within my life. So you're looking at the first, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 notes within my life, and he wrote it on the sheet music and then signed it to me.
Dude, that is killer.
That's crazy.
And you can tell.
Trade him one of your photos, Eric.
Isn't that crazy?
That is killer, man. That is so cool.
So he wrote that to me, and to this day, the art director, Derek, who's still my friend, I don't know, hassles me about once a year. Like, that was supposed to be for me. And I was like, nah.
I can only imagine what that's worth now.
I don't know. It's written to me, so it might not be worth as much as if it was written just for him. You know what I mean?
Still,
But,
that's
dude,
so cool.
It's priceless to you.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just so funny that I don't know. It's just crazy because at the time I was a Beatles fan, like all of us were, but it wasn't until probably I was on the way down to shoot something in Mississippi for Wired, and on the drive down, I was listening to Anthology 3. And in the Anthology 3, if you go back and listen to the Beatles Anthology 3, his voice is on it 100%. It's like all the time asking John, maybe you should redo that again, or having Paul, I love that. Let's try that again. And they included his voice on that, which I thought was really cool. So if you go back and listen to Anthology 3, George Martin's voice is just all over it, always trying to get them to like decide on something else or something different. And I remember it was funny, if you guys have ever seen Raising Arizona, I remember sitting there driving down to Mississippi to shoot this thing for Wired, having just done the shoot like a month prior. I hear his voice on it 100, like all the time, and I started punching the roof, like, ah! Just like, I can't believe I did this shoot, man. It's crazy. And I've got all these friends that are way,
right?
yeah. And I'm like, I've got friends that are way bigger Beatles fans than I am about this. I cannot believe I just did this with him.
Speaking of the Beatles, you've got one photograph that we were all kind of looking at earlier, and it's 4 of the Beatles in front of a British Airways airliner. Can you explain that to us? We're trying to figure that one out.
Dude, I'm trying to figure it out to this day, and it's one of the weirdest things. So, and I did a video about this, and it's basically, sometimes you get hired for something, and this is their idea, right? And you have yours. You present yours. They've got theirs, and you still do theirs. And this was their idea. This was I don't know if it's British Airways or the ad agencies or whatever, but it was just an idea they had where Madame Tussauds had sent over the Abbey Road wax figures, and what you weren't seeing was the board they were all standing on to hold the wax figures up. And so I had to take all that out. I had to digitally remove all that board, replace it with a tarmac, and then on top of that, shadows to make it look real. So I worked my ass off on getting that thing to look like there was just them walking on concrete. But what had happened was British Airways had not been in Nashville for like 20 plus years. And they had just redone a deal in their international wing where it was just going to be, you know, a hub for British Airways. Because, you know, not now, but like back then, people from Nashville were constantly, you know, producers, musicians, you know, people from London too were coming here, recording constantly. And so they were trying to do a deal where they could have a direct flight, you know, from London to Nashville, which they had not had for 20 plus years. And so they were announcing this big thing. They hired me and a bunch of other things. They had the huge party and the governor and everybody's there and all this kind of crap. And so the plane lands, what you're seeing, the plane, and the plane's landing, you're actually seeing the plane landing in Nashville, which it hadn't done in 20 years. And the pilots were, you can't see it in that photo, but the pilots had flags. There was an American flag and a British flag out the window of the little pilot windows they had. And that happened later, which they ended up going with. But this is one of the ideas. They had shipped this Abbey Road thing because they thought there was some sort of connection, you know, with Nashville musicians and British musicians, to have Abbey Road guys walking on the tarmac, and it was just the weirdest.
Can you get that picture up there?
Weird.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was an advertisement for British Airways.
So what was
that's what it was supposed to be. That's what it was supposed to be. And they just, I think it was their idea. They thought it was awesome. They had me do it. They get it back, and they probably looked at it the way we looked at it. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life.
So that plane is landing. What?
That plane literally is landing and coming in to dock at the bay. So,
That's crazy.
It's a good shot.
It is a good shot.
What was your idea for this shot?
Well, my idea for the shot was the flag stuff because I knew they were going to do it. I knew that like in one of the other shots, I got it somewhere. I don't have it on the website, but one of those shots was just like them doing the flags and all this kind of stuff, and all the people, the business around them, which is a better and more successful ad, I think, because, you know, you're seeing the relationship and you're seeing the back to normal, you know, kind of thing. And that's kind of what I thought was a way better idea, which they ended up going with. But this was their idea, and they thought this was a good idea, and it just ended up being weird. Or why would they have shipped? Can you believe they had to bring, because there's no other way to get this Madame Tussauds bullshit over here, except for another British Airways flight or some other kind of flight. It must have cost them countless amount of dollars to ship this over.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
It melt out there.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, this was, I don't know when we did it. It was probably October. So this is fall or spring. It wasn't brutal. 60, 75, something like that. It wasn't too bad. But yeah, I've got all these shots of me, like selfieing, like me with Ringo in the background. Hey, everybody. I'm hanging out with Ringo and John, who you know is dead, but he's back.
It kind of brings up a good point. I'd like to ask you a question about, if I could, I'll put this away. You shot a lot of people and a lot of celebrities and presidents and all that. Do you get starstruck?
You know, weirdly, no, but the one person that I was like just enamored with was Sister Rosa Parks. I was supposed to shoot photographs of Sister Rosa Parks. I don't know, a couple months before she passed away. She'd written a book and she was doing a book tour. And I was so nervous. And that was like one of the few times I was so nervous. I was a little nervous with Sir George Martin, actually, because once that thought crept into my head that he's worked with the Beatles and also me, just got into my head. And it just kind of made me completely like, oh, crap. I know I'm not the best thing this guy's ever seen. You know what I mean? I'm not the best thing that this guy's ever experienced or whatever. And when he called me, that's why when he called me Clever Clogs, I was just like, ah! You know, because the fact that he understood what I was trying to do, understood like what I was trying to go for, and the fact that I was willing, and the shot that you showed earlier was a shot that I had not planned, and he had looked out the window and ended up being the shot. And I think that's what he was impressed with, was that I was just kind of went on the fly and was able to kind of like get outside the plan a little bit. And that's what he loved the most. He really did love his shots. And you know what? To finish on that, that when he accepted his Lifetime Achievement Grammy with the RAA. That's the photo that showed when he got it.
Yeah,
So
that's killer.
that
That's a moment.
that they actually called me because this is pre-internet, this is pre-whatever, and they called me to let me know that was the photo they showed when he accepted his Lifetime Achievement Award Grammy from the Recording Industry of America, and that just like meant the world to me,
Now, do you have a photo that's the best one you cherish,
Favorite.
favorite, whatever you want to call it, but
With
That's a
that
tough one.
portfolio, that could be many.
as
Well, it's tough because, obviously with photography, and you know how this is, you guys will relate to this, but what have you done for me lately? Is kind of the thing with us, right? And so, going through all the stuff that I've recently gone through, went to Norway and street shooting, I guess, or at least, I don't know what you call it, like landscape street shooting or just Nat Geo kind of stuff. I'm just not really, that's not how I started. That might be how I finished, but it's not how I started. And I was in Norway and I was in this fishing village, and I'm trying to think, how can I show this to you guys? Is there a way for me to show this to you guys?
Is it on the travel page on your website?
It's not, because I just shot it. I shot it 3 weeks ago,
Oh,
4
okay,
weeks
yeah.
ago. So I'm trying to think of is there a way for me to do this without messing stuff
You
up
can
on
email it to me and I'll put it up.
share content?
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
that right
You
there.
can do
Yeah.
that.
From here.
Yeah, I didn't
there you
know
go.
this. Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Hit that green button.
The thing. There's no nude stuff in here. That's good. There's some bikinis.
Yeah, I don't have to do any
Oh,
more
yeah.
editing.
Yeah, right. So you're looking at my
I don't see
traveling
anything
through.
yet.
No, we're not seeing anything
Okay,
yet.
so I think what you have to do is share the actual
You have to
photo.
hit the
So I've got
share
to click
op-
on it.
Yep, there you
Yep,
go.
I
Yeah.
got to click on it. Okay, hold it. Waiting for it. I'm waiting for the edit because I edited the crap out of this thing. This might be right here. Okay, so
yet.
do I hold it? Here we go. Did that work?
Nothing yet.
nothing.
No.
It says it worked, but that doesn't
Are you on?
mean
Are
it worked.
you on your mobile device? Or you on your a laptop?
I am. I'm on the mobile device, and so I selected it. Done.
There you go.
There
Yep,
There it
you go.
is.
There you go. Okay.
There it is.
There it is.
And
Oh, dude.
I'm not that guy. I'm not that, you know what I mean? And that's something that I'm really super proud of, because it's monumental when you can skip genres and move into another place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
And
beautiful.
this one, thank you. And that was something that was in a little town in Norway called Honningsvåg. And you couldn't see it, but there's a little ship just out of frame to the left there. And these birds were literally all over the dock, all over the water. In the distance to the right of the boats, there's these two holding, like three or four holding tanks. And these birds are literally everywhere. They're just waiting for the fish to pop out for 2 seconds, to eat them. And
Jeez.
these birds are all over. Literally, there's nothing in the sky. And they shoot a gun off, like a cannon or something, to just scare them. And me too, by the way. It scared the crap out of me. And so they shoot this gun off, and these birds just take off, and they're just literally in the sky. And it's just such a crazy contrast between the white birds in front of the dark mountain and then the dark birds against the white sky. Like, how does that even happen in the same exposure? That's insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, that was kind of a thing for me. I just, I just loved, being able to do that and understanding how to do it. I know how hard it is to do that. So
That's awesome.
Great one.
how do I get out of this mode now? I'm trying to figure out how to
You
get out.
should have a.
can't.
You should have when you tap on it. You should have a stop sharing type of option.
Stop sharing.
There you go.
Good job.
All right. So now I got to flip it back to me.
Yeah, there you
And
go.
there we go.
There we go. Right back to where we were. So
So-
cool. So do you mind if I ask, what is your editing preference, your editing style, or what do you do? Do you shoot everything, load it all up into Lightroom or something, or what is your preference?
It's interesting. I get asked this question a lot, and it's time. It's usually based on time. So for instance, when I shoot any kind of event or any kind of like portrait or any kind of thing, I'm always doing RAW plus JPEG, always.
Yep.
And I do RAW plus JPEG because the JPEG is going to be dedicated to the gallery. And then the gallery goes to the client. And I don't make the burden on me. I make the burden on the client to choose photos. So, then with each photo, then there's a file number and all that kind of stuff, and they have to decide and all that kind of crap. So I'm just about shooting. I'm not about the printing necessarily. I'm not about like all the editing, and it just seems like the younger generation wants to be about the 47 hours they spend on editing photos and only giving out 300 photos out of the 800 photo shots, and I'm just like, nah, it's not my job. It's not my job. My job is to shoot. My job is to not edit. My job is to not print, even though I like printing and I love printing and I will do it for exhibits. So I'm kind of shoot focused when I do all the things that I do. And I do it through, honestly, Bridge. People are all about Lightroom, and I just don't give a crap about Lightroom. I'm sorry, but it just, when it comes to bells and whistles, guess what the bells and whistles are? I'm the bells and whistles. I don't need tricks. I don't need Photoshop. I don't need, all the stuff to kind of support me. Everything I try to do is TTL. It's all through the lens. That's how it's supposed to be. That's what our strength is. That's what your strength needs to be. Not to say any of that stuff is bad, not trying to piss on it. I'm not the Chevrolet guy pissing on the Ford guy. You know what I mean? I'm not that guy. But if the strength and the imagery and if your boldness and your love doesn't come through on your imagery, then you're something else. You're an editor, or you're, I don't know, kind of half-assed doing whatever you're doing. So to me, the strength and the emphasis needs to be on shooting and imagery. That's where it needs to be. It doesn't need to be on printing and editing and all that kind of stuff, even though I use all the stuff. Hell, I even edit on my phone. Like I remember once I sat in Central Park and there was a magazine doing an article about the boxing shoot that I just finished. I sat there and edited 5 images on my phone. That's all I had. I was in Central Park. You know what I mean? So I sat on a bench in Central Park, edited the 5 images, got them back, and they went to print. So it's not that I piss on technology. It's that I don't lean on it and use it as a crutch. And to me, it's all about the proof is in the pudding. And, if you can't get to that place where your images are strong enough, then that's actually is the problem. That's a problem for me,
Yep.
So you would say, I'm sorry, Jason.
Go ahead.
You would say that you're a big proponent of get it right in the camera.
100%. Get it right in the camera. Have your ideas complete. I mean, you can see the amount of prep that I do going into a shoot a lot of times. Like the other day, I was in Mexico. When was this? 3-4 days ago. I was in Mexico, and it's a dumb photo. It's not that great, but it's just this photo of palm leaves. I was kind of bored with the landscape, and I was like, I'm just going to take this palm leaf and I'm going to shoot this thing in front of the sun. And then literally 2 people walked into between the palm leaf. There was a head at the bottom and a boat at the top. It's a crazy shot. It was shot with a phone, actually. But I sat there and I shot, 75 photos with my phone until I got this one or 2 that I really liked. That's the kind of dedication that I'm willing to put in. What are you willing to put in? That's what I want to do. That's how I want to present this. If you're not willing to just sacrifice your time or sweating or I haven't eaten yet or whatever, then I guess you're just not really that into it as much as me. And that's kind of the level of dedication I think you need to be putting in those kind of stuff, because you'll find yourself in those moments. You'll find what you're looking for if you dig deep enough.
Cool. All right, how are we doing on time, everybody?
Stumped our expert panel. We all kind of went, wow, that's deep.
You stumped us on that one.
Wow.
Well,
No, I mean, you're absolutely
Cool
right.
concept.
I mean, it all starts with what you do with your camera. I mean, everything after that is irrelevant if you didn't do it right in the first place.
well, I was talking to a coaching student earlier 2 days ago, and I said, I want to remind you, the Beatles recorded with 4 tracks.
Right.
It has nothing to do. It has something to do, but it has almost nothing to do. You know what I mean? With the tech and this and that and all the crap and all the excuses we give when, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that. They recorded with 4 fucking tracks. They had to ping all day long, back and forth between these tracks to make something happen from having limitations. You know what I mean? Limitations, I think, are actually more freeing than
Yeah, absolutely.
adding to anything.
Yep. And they didn't have copy and paste and all that stuff. And, you know, they had to nail it from start to finish all the way through, no mistakes. And if they made a mistake, they restarted all over.
Exactly. They would record it 5 times, you know, and try to bring the best pull out of all of it. You know what I love about it was that thank God they kept all the pings. You know, they're the only group that kept all their pings, so all the recordings of anything they ever did.
Yep.
Thank God somebody had the foresight and to say, keep everything, don't throw anything away. Because all the other groups, like Led Zeppelin, they were like, when they would do it, they would throw it away immediately.
Yep.
Eddie Kramer said that's one of the biggest regrets of his life was I threw away some of the backwards stuff. You know what I mean? Like he would throw some tracks away because he just like, we're not going to keep any of that crap anyway.
Yeah.
And the Beatles kept everything. And so when you listen to like the Love thing they did for Vegas, and listen to the Beatles, what's the cartoon? Yellow Submarine?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
5.1, and it's all from the original pings. That's insane.
Yep.
We didn't even talk about what was the group's name? Saliva.
Oh yeah. Tell us about Saliva.
So yeah, that was interesting because isn't the old lead singer from Shinedown, right?
No, Saliva. Well, Saliva has a different singer now, but I think they started off at the same time as Shinedown, or maybe there's some sort of relationship. I don't remember, but it's not.
There's
the same
some weird,
singer.
relationship because even Paul Crosby. I think none of the guys in Saliva are in Saliva now. Like all of them are gone.
I don't know.
Except for the guy that originally started it. But I thought one of the singers from Shinedown joined them after the main guy left. And I did the photo shoot for that iteration.
Of Saliva?
Yeah.
Yeah, so their singer, they took on a new singer, and I can't remember his name. He's a younger dude.
Yeah, he was a younger
like
dude.
in the last, I don't know, 8 years or something like that.
Maybe even longer.
10 years?
Maybe,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Something like that.
8 or 9 years, yeah. It was the only photo shoot I ever had to do where I had to do like an Uber cocaine phone call. It was an Uber Eats cocaine phone call I had to do. It was like that. Never done that before. That was new.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of history there with that. Oh, totally. Yeah. What was that shoot? So was that like for an album cover, or was it just a promo thing?
Yeah. It was an album cover. I honestly can't tell you which one, but you know what I was obsessed with at the time. I had wanted to nail the Albert Watson look, and I was just like, I'm going to get an Albert Watson shot out of this, and I'm trying to think if there's a way maybe I can let me see if I can share something. But I wanted it so bad to get this Albert Watson isolated. He would isolate on a white background, and he would shut everything down around the edge of their face. So almost like a snooted light.
Yep.
And it was black edges and all that kind of crap. I'm just trying to see if I can. Yeah, I was obsessed with this. I don't know why I was obsessed with it, but
I've been
trying to see if I can.
That.
It's actually pretty interesting because it's basically snoots. But what I ended up doing was just trying to. Let's see what I've got here. Portfolio, perhaps. But yeah, I was obsessed with trying to get. Yeah, here we go. So done there.
Oh yeah, killer.
And I was obsessed with just isolating their faces and showing them as a silhouette lower in the half of the body. Yep. And it totally worked. And I was so happy with this because I was able to kind of pull off what I wanted and what they wanted. But can you remember? So there's Paul on the right, and then the next to him, that was the guy that was singing for Shinedown for like, I don't know, 8 years ago. Is it not Shinedown?
It's not Shinedown. He came from something else, some other band. I can't remember the name of the band. But he kind of looks like the singer for Shinedown.
That's what I thought.
Brent is the original singer of Shinedown. He's been with the band. He started the band.
Right.
So
Paul,
singer wise.
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyway, that's what I was trying to put. It totally worked.
Yeah, that's killer. Yeah, that's awesome.
I was able to get that happening, and that was my main concern, was just trying to make sure that happened and make them not look old. You know what's interesting? Okay, I'll tell you. I'll go back to this. Hold on. I'm going to go back to sharing.
Sure.
Oh crap. I'm going to do that again. I got to go back. I got to go back through all this stuff again. Great. But what I was concerned with more than anything was the difference in ages.
Right.
So the age of the guy, okay, so the guy on the right, Paul, and then one over from him, the two guys in the very middle. The guy on the right is 28, the guy on the left is 55.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so trying to make those age groups shrink was what all I was trying to do out of that shoot. And that is a bugger, man. That's a bugger trying. That's why I chose the light I did, because to hide everything else. And so that's kind of why I did it. And it's what you got to do sometimes, you know. You're getting paid to lie.
That's awesome.
Getting
Though.
paid
That's a
to
great
lie
shot.
to people. Thanks, man.
I've seen that shot. Now that you've shared it, I've seen that shot before.
Yeah, it was a good deal. That was a lot of money. Got paid a lot of money. And at that time, oh gosh, who owned it? It was a label. It was a vodka label that owned the label. It wasn't Red Bull, but it was, who was it?
I know they do a lot of Monster Energy drink, but I don't know if that's.
It was before, well, not before Monster was the thing, but it was definitely, it was a vodka label, and I cannot remember the name of the vodka, but it was the family. It was the guy that owned the vodka label himself.
Oh, okay.
Had the label. Wasn't, but that's one of the vodka names, so it was kind of like that. Well, it was like, you know, Derek Komisar Smirnoff or something, and it was somebody like that owned. I'll remember it later, but anyway, that's it. That was the Shinedown story and or Saliva story.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's killer. How many? Do you get a lot of musical portfolio? Oh, not portfolio, but album cover type shoots and stuff like that? Or has that changed a lot recently?
You know what's funny? People ask this question a lot because of Nashville being kind of like New York and LA in the same breath that you would. What's changed about the trends? And in the old days, the money was in town, so people were trying to come here to be a star or whatever. And now, what's switched is that the money's coming from out of town. So there's investors in some shit town that are kind of dumping their money into this person that they think is going to be a star to go to Nashville to be famous, because they're hoping that it'll be Taylor Swift or whoever, you know what I mean? That's the thing that's switched. In the old days, it was people came to town to make it famous. And now it's people are investing into people to come to town to be famous, because now it's almost like a myth. Nashville's kind of a myth in the sense that, like if you're going to be famous, you're going to be here.
I had heard that story from somebody else who had been produced in Nashville, and that was a story that they came out of, is that the money's coming from other places and they're investing in you and they want a return on their investment as they're going to make a lot of money as you're touring or in music or whatever it is, however they're going to make their money now. Obviously they're not selling CDs anymore, but
So you also have your own podcast that's quite interesting. How did you come about with podcasts? Have you been doing it for a while? What was sort of the inspiration for this, and how's it going with that?
It's going pretty good. I mean, we've only had like 4 or 5, episodes, and we've got probably a couple thousand subscribers so far. The main thing that I wanted to kind of do was just talk about some of the stories that we talked about today. Just kind of talk about like what's happened behind the scenes, and then what it ended up happening was just getting, to me, I think the thing that's missing from a lot of what we do is teaching people about creativity and talking about creativity and what's the skin of the game. Like if I'm going to actually make this as a photographer, and what do I got to do? Because everybody gives you all these tips and tricks. You look on these things every day. Like I look on Instagram and there's always some guy, shooting a bottle of something with some sand falling across it. And that to me will solve a problem for a half a day or solve a problem for 3 hours. But, I'm asking the guy that's shooting that, what do you want to shoot when you grow up? You know what I mean? And so to me, it's about that as a career. So we talk about careers and things like that. And so what I started becoming interested in was, what was your build? How did you get there? How did you know who you were? How are you making it through right now? what are you doing to make it through right now? You know, just like the things that are going to be like the type of questions when we come out of this bull crap, this COVID stuff, who's going to stay and who's going to go?
Right.
And what does it take? What does it take, you know, to separate from the pack? What does it take to make it? What does it take with what's happening right now and that type of stuff? Like, what are the keys to success? Can you give me 2 of them? You know, I want to ask these questions because what people are talking about, like all this stuff you're seeing on social media and Instagram and social influencers and types of stuff like that is just, these are all tips and tricks. That's a Band-Aid. I want to know how to have a career in this. How do I stay? What's my longevity? How do I have a better, more successful Instagram account or Pinterest account? Which, by the way, are the 2 most important because you're a visual artist. But it's, you know, and so I started coaching. And because of that, I started coaching because I started realizing, you know, at first I started thinking, you know, I'm going to help everybody at my level or below. And we're going to, you know, ask questions and do Zoom meetings and do workshops. And I'm going to offer courses and all this kind of stuff. And what I found out is I started helping everyone and below me. When I say me, I mean like somebody that's done this for 25 years plus. And what ended up happening is I'm helping a lot of people that are my heroes because, you know, I'm 53, they're 60 something, but these are the people that we've always heard about and talked to and idolized. And what it gets down to is everybody's got the same question. And that is, how do I become relevant in this right now? How am I relevant right now? I don't care. I don't have anything as this guy. And I've got everything, and I still don't know how to be relevant. And so that's what we're trying to ask the same freaking questions. And that's, how do I become relevant? How do I reach the market that I want to reach? How do I find success in the pool that I'm in? And so I started coaching because of that. And I started the podcast for the same reasons. And I thought, you know, if I can at least actually give answers out, for God's sake, it would be great if somebody would give an answer instead of trying to give me a trick that's going to last 10 minutes. I want to know answers for how to make it, answers for how, like what my build should be, what my mentality should be about how to build my portfolio, what my portfolio should look like. Who am I? Do I shoot concerts? Do I shoot portrait? And what's my strength? Can somebody tell me what my strength is? You know, that type of stuff. These are real questions that we got to ask and answer because right now, man, it's not playing around. We got to make it, and we got to make it right now. So what are you willing to do? Like we talked about earlier, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? Do you want to be a photographer? All right. Do you like weddings? The first thing I used to get, no, I hate weddings. Weddings are the worst. Weddings are this. We had this idea that we're here and weddings are here. Well, I guess you just don't want to be a photographer then, do you? Because guess what's recession proof? Weddings. You know what I mean? And so you need to pivot. You got to pivot and you got to figure out how you're going to make it in this industry. And that's the 2 reasons. So I started the podcast and I started the coaching stuff for that reasons, because for some strange reason, I'm still getting work. For some strange reason, I'm at the top of my search for music and for photography. And for some strange reason, our podcast is growing and not shrinking. And I see people asking questions about podcasts on all these podcast movement websites and Facebook groups, all this kind of stuff. Why is my podcast not growing? It's because your podcast is fucking boring. And you guys actually have a really interesting podcast. And you will see growth because of it. And that's just the truth. And that's what's going to happen to everybody's work because it's interesting and everybody's, you know, whatever they're going to put into the effort they're going to put into whatever they're putting it into, make a difference, man. Don't do what everybody else is doing, and don't do it out of fear, and don't do it because you need the money. Do it because it inspires people, and it's something that you want to do, and it's honest, and it's who you are. Get more personal. If anything, get more personal with all this stuff.
So for people who are just learning about you, maybe through this podcast or wherever, where should they go to find out more about you?
Well, the easiest thing to do is just go to the Allen Clark Photography. So, you know, blah, 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 www.allenclarkphotography.com. There's a couple of things, you know, you can go to the photo coaching page, talk about the photo coaching part of it. And there's a podcast page. And our last interview on the podcast was with a photographer named Chris Gunn, who is a photographer for the James Webb Telescope with NASA. And so because of my history, I've done this for 25 years. I know everybody in the industry. I just pulled no punches. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to do a podcast, I'm going for Nat Geo. I'm going for NASA. I'm going for my heroes. I'm going for everybody I've ever idolized. And I'm going to get all of them to be on it. And actually, I've got a mountain climber that's done who's done, what's the name of the mountain? Sorry. I'll start over again.
K12 or whatever.
No, what's the big one? Himalayas.
Kilimanjaro, Everest.
Himalayas, Everest,
Thank you.
K2.
Everest.
Okay,
Sorry.
I mean, I started thinking I need to get outside of my scope of things, and I met him on a shoot and all this type of stuff. So I've got a mountain climber coming on. He's the only Canadian who's climbed both faces of Everest. I've got one of the original animators from Disney coming on. We talk about the multiplane camera that Disney had back in the day before any of this digital stuff happened. And, I've got Matt Mahurin coming up at the end of the year, who's shot tons of U2 records and music videos. He's shot the Tracy Chapman Fast Car video. He's done all kinds of stuff, and a lot of different people. Sig Harvey, who's been a wonderful artist that I've loved to interview. She's British and she does nothing but like MoMA and exhibits and stuff like that. So I've tried to get a wide variety. Sam Abell, National Geographic photographer for 35 years, and I've tried to kind of swing for the fences, and that's kind of how I am with everything I do anyway. Yep. And I think that's part of the success of it.
Swinging for the fences.
Yeah, right.
What's your approach to get?
I want to jerk one out of the park.
What's your approach to get these people on? That's kind of get my curiosity. Reaching out.
You do not have because you do not ask.
Yeah, you never.
That's my approach.
Yep.
Ask everybody. Look what happened with Phil Collins. That's crazy. I don't know if I could ever get him on my show, but I'd love to have him. I mean, that's insane. So you just ask.
Talk to us. We'll get him on for you.
Those kids
We
had
have connections.
Well, one of you babysit, but anyway. But you get what I'm saying. Like a lot of these people will do it because you ask them and you're persistent and you send letters and you know what I mean? Like they just do it because you seem like I remember this is my very first podcast is with my good buddy Chris Buck, who lives in New York, and he told me one of the main reasons why his whole build was shooting bands in Toronto when he first started. And he started with this one club, and this guy let him in, and he was able to shoot like Lou Reed and like all these like Talking Heads and all these like crazy famous people. And it wasn't just live photos, but it was like portrait photos too. And he said he saw the guy, I don't know, 10 years later, 20 years later in the airport. And he went up to him and he said, "Why did you let me do all that?" And he goes, "I don't know. You seem serious." And that's kind of how this is. You know what I mean?
Totally,
you get it. Well, you're going to get it because you seem serious. You get it because you love it. You get it because you send letters and you're prudent and you get things done. And you know what I mean? That's why you get it, because that's why you ask. You ask for it and you're consistent and you're persistent.
Right.
Now, why did you come on?
Because Steve was persistent.
It was the group. Honestly, it was the group of you guys and what this meant and the fact that it was a live venue and all this. It sounded really interesting. Cool. It's a really interesting angle, and I think that maybe go with your strength on that. That's an interesting angle, and I think people will come on because they're as interested as I am.
Yeah, cool.
I think that you said everything. You hit everything right on the head. Obviously, I mean, you have so much experience, and I mean, you've kind of been through it all, so you kind of have a pretty good insight to how to make it work. So, and listening to you talk about your podcast, as I did research today, I started watching, listening to your podcast and looking through your stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is something really. I mean, when you were talking about the telescope thing, I was like, I'm definitely going to go download that because that sounds so cool. Stuff like that. That's really interesting. And where else am I going to find that info? I mean, I could go research it on Google, whatever, but it's not only cool stuff, but it's entertaining as well. So, yeah.
Well, my whole goal, and here's what I believe, because I actually have a brand that shoots wedding stuff, and, I do portraits and I do all this kind of stuff. The thing that I hate about our genre is that it's separate. Wedding people are over here, family people are over here, portrait people are over here. Commercial stuff, music stuff, the cool kids, they're over here. It's like going into your lunchroom in high school. Yeah. You know what I mean? And everybody's segregated and sitting at different tables, and this is bullshit. And what I want to do with this podcast is I want to bring all of us as photographers, no matter what your thing is, together, because we have something interesting to say. We observe the world, for crying out freaking loud. And I tell this to my coaching students, and I'll tell this to you guys, we have a noble profession. We have such a noble profession.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people that I've photographed that are no longer with us. I can't tell you how many people and how many situations are so important in what we do, and the things I've shot are really important. We have such a noble profession, and that needs to be honored.
Yeah, and freezing time and capturing that moment and all that stuff too. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, thanks for watching this episode with Allen Clark. If you want to see more episodes, check us out at talesfromthepit.net and also on YouTube. We'll see you next week.